This Reddit article is from 6 months ago. It's titled Already Difficult Relationship. Wife Spent Life Savings Gambling and Lied About It. We've been married together 15 years, have 3 kids. About 10 years ago, after the birth of our third child, I sat her down on the blue couch in our living room and explained to her that the level of meanness that she displayed during arguments was really hurting me and that I thought we should seek diagnosis and or treatment for possible mental health issues. Basically, I said, something isn't normal here and it's hurting me. In the meantime, we had our life and our fights, and sometimes were good and sometimes were bad. She did very little to acknowledge my request. It has been a very slow process getting her to participate in therapy, and only in the last year has she been diagnosed with ADHD. However, couples therapy sessions have revealed that the therapist believes that there are other things going on, possibly including bipolar and or PTSD. Her childhood had some moments of extreme difficulty that no child should have to experience. She's shown no interest in pursuing additional therapy for this, despite my literally begging. About 9 months ago, she started taking meds for ADHD, which has helped reduce the frequency of the fighting because she spends less time either highly manic or highly depressed. Sleep deprivation is a real problem for her. She sleeps on average 4 hours per night and then crashes for 12 to 14 hours one night every week or so. Anyway, something happened. I got a notice via email that our checking account was overdrawn. I have always let her manage the money because she did a great job and everything was taken care of, at least as well as I could do it. I was involved in household banking stuff for roughly the first 10 years we were together, and she always did a wonderful job. So I just trusted her to keep doing that. After the email this morning, I logged into the bank account, and in the transaction history, I see hundreds of transfers from the account to her personal account, as well as a lot of payments to online gambling companies, thousands and thousands of dollars. I didn't bother to try to total it up. I called her while I was at work, standing outside for privacy. I confronted her. She tried to deflect at first, but after some yelling, it comes out that she's been gambling online for a while. She says a couple months, but when I look further, it looks like since December. She has obviously told a lot of lies to cover this over the last 5 months. Trust was already in question, and the nature of our relationship was in a downward spiral due to fights and general hurt. I didn't expect this, though. To me, this feels like the last straw. It looks like she spent somewhere in the vicinity of $55,000 since January 2025, almost all of it gambling online. She has a little bit of income, and some wins means she deposited $8,000 at that time. Essentially, she lost $45,000 in 5.5 months gambling. Not all of the money was ours. Some of it was her brother's, who's currently in prison, and she's been managing that. About $40,000 of the money was ours. She had a few $1,000s in variable collectibles, which she sold to try to cover up this last month when I almost found out. The bulk of that money spent was my paycheck and a severance package I received from a previous job. We are not wealthy, but up until this, we have managed money well enough that we get by on a single income. Right now, I can't even make the house payment without cashing out some savings. I haven't yet looked at the credit cards, but I'm scared of what I'll find there. Gambling addiction runs in her family, as does mental illness. I do not want to abandon her to her own problems, though I feel like I want to right now, as I just discovered this massive deceit this morning. But I'm not sure how I can be married to someone who I don't trust and who I can't get along with. My kids still need their mom no matter what. I hurt so much for them. Where do I go from here? I have been through this before in a previous marriage. She cheated, she took all the money, then tried to file a restraining order on me for made up abuse. And I don't feel like I can make an objective decision about anything right now. I'm at work for another 2.5 hours. Then I go to my other job, which is a volunteer. Eventually, I'll have to go home and deal directly with the impact this has on my kids. And I'm scared to death of letting them down. All right, hold on just a sec. For those who are seeing the screen, this cute little holiday mug, I just love it. I got it at Kirkland's here in Tampa. No, I don't sell stuff on this channel, but just in case anyone, wanted to see it all the way around, I think it's my little holiday treat. Right. Happy Friday evening, folks. There comes a point where you have to decide what is rock bottom. And I'm just going, even though I've never had a gambling addiction, those who are very familiar with this channel know that I have had, had a shopping addiction when I was in my 20s and 30s. It led to the first bankruptcy in my mid 20s for about $25,000. The vehicle that got bankrupted on in my 30s, it's almost 10 years later, was because I bought too much car. But let's focus on my experience with the shopping addiction and apply it to this. And we're going to be looking at a series of gambling addiction articles. So if you feel this is a sensitive topic for you, you might want to not watch this particular episode, which I certainly respect. I think if I look at my addiction, you have to decide for yourself what is rock bottom. And I think at times people forget that rock bottom doesn't just mean the addict has to make that decision as to, hey, I'm the addict. I've hit rock bottom. I need to find Jesus or whatever, okay, and change my ways. But it also goes for the innocent person, the person who, just like this guy here, and this is from 7 months ago. Close your eyes. I'm going to scroll to the top. Okay. The innocent party has to decide what is rock bottom, because sometimes we're so busy dealing with the person who's got the addiction and all the attention is put on them. Can I get you therapy? What medications do you need? Can I take you to your counseling appointments? Can you even hold a job? Now, fortunately for me, during my addiction, my shopping addiction, I was not married. I was in and out of couple relationships, but I wasn't married. This Redditor, and again, this is from 6 months ago, is going, and they're in their 40s, 47 and 45 years old. The Redditor is going to have to decide what his rock bottom is. And he says in the article, he goes, well, their kids need their mom. Sure. And guess what? You can be divorced and your kids can have a relationship with their mom. It will need to be monitored to make sure the kids don't fall into the same pattern that she has, and that the kids are physically and mentally safe. But let's put that aside, just as far as, well, their kids need their mom for a relationship. You can be divorced and your kids can still have a whole and hearty relationship with the parent. I am fully convinced of that, coming from my own divorced family. But when it comes to rock bottom, he says, and this is the part that was really telling for me, he says that he was in another marriage and it was the same type of thing where there was this financial deceit and all of that. This tells me, kind of like someone who's attracted to alcoholics, dating an alcoholic because they were raised in an alcoholic family, even though they themselves may not be, but it's kind of what's familiar. He, in my opinion, is going to what is familiar. Kind of like, think of it like this, okay? When I finally started getting mentally free, mentally healthy, it was really foreign to me because my life had always been so much of, money mismanagement, not the greatest relationships, and nothing abusive or anything like that. Fortunately, I've been through enough. I didn't need that on top of it. But it wasn't like, no one was hitting me or anything like that. Some psychological, yeah, but I think sometimes that just comes par for the course. But ultimately, he has to decide, are you going to keep going to what's familiar? Being debt free is unfamiliar. Matter of fact, I did a video when I became debt free about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I don't even think it's been 2 years. It feels really foreign. Having something that's healthier and better than what you've been used to is so foreign. And it was really telling to me when he said, oh, well, I've been in this type of relationship before and she did the same thing. This is what he's familiar with. And so it's what he gravitates to. But at some point, he being the innocent person, and again, we're going with what is being said in this article. So we are going to assume he's the innocent person because that's all we have to go with. Ultimately, he's going to have to decide, when have you had enough? When you're 40, excuse me, you're 45 years old, you're going to let this woman take away your future finances, your future retirement? Because if you're going to let her do that, then she has all the power. See? And that's what he's gonna have to decide. This is one of those where you can tell someone, "Oh, this is a bad relationship, get out." And here's the kicker, he knows it's a bad relationship. He already knows it's not working. Hence why he's writing on Reddit. He says here, the couples therapy sessions, trying to keep from moving the screen here. Says here the couple therapy sessions, she's shown no interest in pursuing additional therapy. Guess what? Bar, she's considered the relationship's one and done. She's happy with the relationship just the way it is. So if he's not happy with the relationship, then they clearly have a disconnect. Something that I have learned over the years is don't be so afraid to end a relationship. What was my mother would say? It's better to be by yourself and alone than by yourself in a marriage. And I think what sometimes happens is people are afraid to end relationships because they're afraid of being alone. When in reality, once you step into that alone cycle, so to speak, you look back on the relationship and you go, oh my God, we were really dysfunctional. He's in a very highly dysfunctional relationship with a woman who sees, and it says here, she's shown no interest in pursuing additional therapy despite the begging. This does not work in a relationship. I can't be sitting there begging for you to become debt free, to manage yourself psychologically, to get a job, to not buy too much car, to not buy too much house, to not spend too much. I can't be sitting there spending my life begging for you to do something that will improve us when the only thing that you see is you. I'm not saying you literally. So to me, this relationship needs to go. She is not interested in pursuing anything. And see, and that's part of the issue with mental health also. The person who's mentally ill, when I was mentally ill, I didn't know I was mentally ill. Oops, sorry about that. I did not know that I was mentally ill because to the mentally ill person, everything's just fine. She here appears to have some mental health issues. The only key I will give, because I won't really not really, I will not divulge how bad my mental health was until after I retire, but I will say this. I went to a counselor. I was in my early 30s. I went to a counselor. Things were just falling apart. And the counselor was recommended to me when I'd gotten out of the hospital at the age of 27 for a total hysterectomy because of issues. And so the hospital set me up with a counselor. And I went to the counselor meeting, and all the counselor said was, Carrie, you don't need a counselor, you need a psychiatrist. And that was all that was said. And the rest of it is history. So I understand to a great extent, to an extreme extent. I understand addiction, what is obsessive compulsive disorder. Okay. I understand going to a hospital because you're losing it on the side of the road and you wind up checking yourself into ER. I understand, you know, psychological medications and all of that. I get it. But I also understand that someone begging me to try to fix myself isn't going to fix it. If she is not begging to heal herself to save her relationship, then there is nothing he can do to salvage the relationship on his own. It's not going to work. So, because of this, her refusal to go to therapy, her inability to see beyond herself just how much it's damaging the relationship, I would sincerely say he needs to go home, pack up, probably take the kids with him if he can, and leave. And then deal with the courts with child support and visitation, all of that stuff. I'm just drawing from my own experience. Sleep deprivation is a real problem. Now, this is funny, not haha funny, but interesting. I only sleep about 5 hours a night, probably during the weekday. I don't sleep really long. And then I tend to crash for possibly on a weekend, I might crash for, 10 hours. I don't sleep 8-hour nights. Really, you guys. Can you guys see me sleeping an 8-hour night? Really? Okay. I don't have the energy to sleep 8 hours a night, but I do sleep about 5. And then on the weekends, I might make it up a little, but not much. But the neat thing is that it's not because I'm highly manic or depressive. But I did get a sleep study thing done about 2 months ago. Need to see my doctor for that. But that's not because of depression. So really, he's in this marriage alone, and that is why he needs to leave. Sorry to be so depressing on a Friday night, guys. All right, let's see here. Let's go to another one. Again, I just pre-selected these, kind of looked at the dates and stuff, but dates don't really matter. But I do not read them in depth until I read it with you. Okay, so let's see here. I just found out my husband lost all of our savings on bad investments and gambling. I'm so heartbroken. I don't know what to do. This is from 2 years ago. Let's see what we can learn from it. I am so heartbroken and don't have anyone to turn to. This morning, I just found out that my husband of 14 years has lost all our hard earned savings to bad investments and gambling, and we have no money left. It all happened when I received an overdraft email from our bank. And when I asked him about it, he started making excuses that he just hadn't transferred from the savings account. I checked our account, and that's when I realized our $150,000 of savings had been completely depleted. I can't describe the gut wrenching feeling. It was as if someone had punched me in my stomach. These were hard earned money years and years of working to better our family's future and our kids. Our plan was to finally have a down payment for our house this year. We only have a few months of rent money left, but with this, I come to find out new credit cards, it's essentially a loss. So instead of saving, we are completely broke. I can't describe the devastation, the hurt, the betrayal that I feel. I wholly and fully trusted my husband. I never even checked our bank account because never in my mind did I ever think he would do such a thing. I've worked day and night just like he did to save and improve our family life. This is just not about the house payment, but in general, it's money for our whole family, for our little kids and their life and future. I am so heartbroken that the man I've been with for 18 years would betray me and the kids and then hid it all from me, then tried to cover it up and lie. I don't know what to do. Do I stay or do I leave? Okay. I'm going to read the update on this because this was an interesting enough story to me that I think the updates are worth reading. So here we go. Um, she says it gets worse. This is the update. There are loans and many, many credit cards that he hid from me. At first, he said it all happened in the last few months where he kept investing and doing online betting. Now I found out he opened loans, and this has been going on for 2 years. The savings account was depleted in the last few months. That's the one with the 150,000. So not only has he lost over 150,000, but also has all kinds of debt of over 150,000. I don't even know yet if this is the full truth, as he refuses to give me his passwords to accounts, which make me believe he is hiding something else. I feel like I'm in a nightmare, all of our hopes and dreams crushed in a single moment. All the things we were working towards and all of our life memories just went down the drain. I know this is irreversible. I asked him to move out. How am I going to explain this to the kids? Now she gives another update, February 2025. I know it's been a while. I read through all of your comments and I appreciate the support. Here's what happened. I gave us another chance. Side note. Okay. Well, we will come back to that. Stay on course, Carrie. Stay on course. I gave us another chance. After long talks, I decided to give our marriage one more chance. I didn't want my kids, one of whom has special needs, to grow up without their dad around. If you are a parent with a kid with special needs, you know how things can get tough. I come from an abusive family, so I know what a broken family looks like. He is a good dad. His brother also decided to help pay our debts. So I stayed and decided to rebuild our lives together. But wait, so many of you told me that this may be just the beginning. A few months later, I randomly came across a little container with white stuff. You guessed it. He swore up and down he did it just once and then forgot about it and that he will never do it again. Things then were going well till recently when my mom passed away. I saw, let's say, I've been really down. It's been really a rough few months without her support. But wait, just a few days ago, I found another bag of white stuff. This time I told him to get out of the house and that I'm done giving him chances. He's been staying in a hotel now, and I'm looking at divorce lawyers. I can't believe this is happening. How do you end a 20-year relationship? Well, okay, so that's basically the end of that. How do you end a 20-year? Well, I was with my ex for 15 until he decided I wasn't the right partner for him. I think when you are, I mean, emotionally, yes, it's always difficult to end. And I don't care if you're together 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. Okay. Some people say, well, the longer you've been together, the harder it is. I'm going to say yes and no to a certain extent. I don't think it's always just, well, if you've been together 30 years, that's harder on you than if you've been together 10. I mean, I guess maybe from a mathematical standpoint, but I think when it comes to the pain of the heart, I don't think it matters. It's like trying to compare, whose wounds are worse. So to me, you're emotionally wounded, bleeding inside and out. So it's figuratively speaking, okay. I can't dismiss your pain because your relationship was 5 years less than mine was. You see, so I'm sorry. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. Okay, in my opinion, if you really look at the damage or how fake perhaps your relationship has been, in other words, when the truth of your relationship comes out, I think it is easier to let it go. But the hard part for me is that that doesn't really happen immediately. It can take some time for it to come out. In other words, now that I've been divorced 13 years, I can look back on it. I was able to do it after about 2 years of being divorced. I was able to go, wow, we really did have the relationship that I thought we had. We really weren't on the same page. We really didn't see things the same way. Almost to the point of, maybe, he did a favor leaving me. I don't know. But what I do know is you realize when one person doesn't want to be in that relationship anymore, when one person doesn't want to be there, the relationship's just as good as done. So, well, it's heartbreaking, just like we heard in the other story where, he's got kids and his wife is bipolar, PTSD, all of that stuff, and she doesn't want to get help. Look, you begin to realize your relationship never was what you thought. It's kind of like when people say, "Oh, but we had a great relationship." Apparently you did not. You thought you did, but apparently you did not. And here's the kicker. You probably knew you didn't. But a relationship can take years and years to break apart because everybody's busy playing their role. Everybody's busy like, "Don't rock the boat, keep it just the way it is." But you realize your boat has splinters and holes all over it. When she said that she took her husband back, my 58-year-old self has taught me one of the ways you're going to save yourself, yes, being selfish, one of the ways you're going to save yourself is you're going to determine very early on, what are you willing to fight for in a relationship? It's like I said, what is your rock bottom? What is the point where you don't what is your line in the sand? You don't want to be there if they do this and this. The problem is in my relationship, just speaking for myself, my freaking line in the sand kept moving. Okay, yeah, okay, they did this, but I'll put up with that, and then they do that. No, and your that line in the sand keeps moving, but sometimes it moves. Oftentimes, it's moving in a way that's actually hurting you more and more. But you keep drawing that line in the sand because you're trying to save the relationship until pretty soon you don't even recognize yourself anymore, and perhaps you've even lost some of your dignity in the process. So when she says here, my husband lost all of our savings, but I tried to take him back. The guy went through more than $300,000, just according to this article here. $150,000 in the savings account, and then another 150 grand or so gambling. And as the writer said, that may not even be the full amount. See, but I can guarantee you, when they were first together as a couple, okay, the line in the sand that she had, it was not my spouse can look at white stuff on paper, wink, wink, okay, can look at white stuff on paper and can run up a $300,000 debt, and I'll still be there and I'll still give them a chance. But somewhere or another in the dysfunction of the relationship, that line keeps moving. That bar of what you're willing to, put up with keeps moving because you're trying to save it until pretty soon, like I said, you realize you don't recognize yourself. This is really sad because here you do have, from what we can tell, we can only take a face value. You have someone who thought they were going to get a house. Guys, this is why you got to pull those credit reports. And I know there are going to be people who think, oh man, you're all checking up on each other. Good, good. Because are you on the same page? A lot of this stuff can be discovered early with people pulling reports. And you sit down, we're going to have the quarterly or whatever meeting. I mean, I don't care, make one up. But it's when people sit there and they go, I so trusted this person, but Again, both people actually hold responsibility. You can't, just leave all the debt and stress on one person. She says here, I think she said they have a special needs child. Yeah, I'm sure that affects it as well because, I think special needs kids oftentimes they take more work. And sometimes I'm just amazed at how parents, especially, okay, single moms take care of special needs kids by themselves. I've seen them things that have just left me speechless. Like some of these single moms with special needs kids, they're like superwomen to me, literally, in the most respectful way, because I'm like, I don't know how they do it. So she says that they've been together for 18 years, betraying me and the kids. But is it possible that she also betrayed herself by not assuming responsibility of the finances? You got to remember, folks, whoever is in charge of the finances deals with the stress. Meaning, whoever deals with the finances, because they know what's going on, they're the ones who have the sleepless nights. You just sleep there like a baby because, you think someone else is dealing with it. But, and I said this in the other Reddit post, I think just earlier this week, if I remember correctly, both people are responsible for the finances. So she can throw shade, shame at her, I'm assuming it's going to be ex-husband on all of this, but she is just as responsible as far as it deals with the finances. The white stuff on paper, no, that she's not responsible for that. But dealing with the finances, and you know why I think sometimes people don't want to deal with the finances? Number one is it can be kind of painful, but it allows the person who doesn't deal with the finances, it allows them to have a happier life. Isn't it wonderful if you don't have to deal with the money and somebody else can have the sleepless nights and deal with the stress of it? See? So, yeah, this is definitely a end of the marriage road for that relationship. At least I think it should be. Let's see here. What else am I looking at? Oh, husband. Let's look at this one from 3 months ago, family. What time is it? It's running about 8:30 p.m. And we are about 27 minutes in. The night is young. So glad you guys are here with me. All right. Husband relapsed into gambling. Lost over 100,000. Oh, sweet Jesus. Am I overreacting for considering divorce? I'm going to say immediately no. All right. 3 months ago, my husband, 32, and I, the female, 30, have been married for 2 years. About a year ago, I found out he had a gambling addiction. At that time, he lost around 60,000. He promised me he would never do it again, that he would fix things, and I tried to support him. I asked for full financial transparency so I could get things under control. I also encouraged him to see a therapist or seek professional help, but he didn't follow through. He refused to share his finances with me, and recently I discovered that he gambled again. This time losing another large amount, about the same as before. In total, he's now lost over $100,000 from gambling. On top of that, during our conversations, he's admitted he's also in credit card debt and only making minimum payments. I'm someone who is extremely financially responsible, and money management is very important to me. After the second incident, I decided to stay with my parents to have space to think. After a lot of back and forth, he's agreed to share his finances going forward. Right now, I'm seriously considering divorce. Part of me feels like that's the only realistic option, but another part of me worries I might be reacting. Am I overreacting and looking at things the wrong way? No. When your husband has okay, having been a shopping addict, now I'm very lucky. I've been clean, sober, so to speak. Okay, I don't drink alcohol, but sober when I say in terms of shopping, okay, addiction. I have been clean for over 30, almost 25 years. So I consider myself cured, healed. But a part of me, just like anyone who's ever had an addiction, always is aware of what I'm doing, maybe even hyper aware to some extent. Okay. So somebody can be clean from gambling of 25 years, an alcoholic can be clean, a shopping addict can be clean, but it's always in the back of our mind. Not that we're going to relapse, but we just make sure, we just watch ourselves a little extra carefully. We make sure we're not doing things that would trigger it or anything else. Here, husband lost over $100,000. My question to her is, how do you want to stick around till he loses another 100,000? Then you can be writing into Reddit, or better yet, calling the Dave Ramsey Show, which I'll probably be doing a reaction to, and you can tell us about how you stuck around with him because he lost the first 50,000, then he lost another 50,000, and you just tried to make this work one more time because you didn't want to think you were overreacting, and now you're $200,000 in the hole. If, like I've said, if you want a guarantee for sure that you will have a financially broken future, stick around with someone who's an addict that is not cured. I thank my lucky stars I was not married when I was in the height of my shopping addiction. She says here, she encouraged him to see a therapist, but he doesn't follow through. Of course, I was supposed to see a therapist for a period. Actually, it was a psychiatrist for a period of time. Um, and then I quit. But believe it or not, in my case, I didn't quit because I wanted to quit. It's just this American medical system we have. When I lost a job, I lost my insurance. And then that's when all hell broke loose. Um, yeah, people who are mentally ill, they typically don't want to see therapists. Heck, I used to throw my medication down the toilet. 3, 4, $500 a month. I used to toss it down the toilet. Yeah. So when people are mentally ill, they don't see themselves as that. So you are the problem, not them. So when you stick around in a relationship with someone who is mentally ill, what you're really doing is you become the scapegoat for everything that goes wrong with them. Well, if you just hadn't stuck your nose in where it didn't belong, you would have known about the money. Oh, you're always overreacting. You see, you become the focus of the problem. And again, I was not in a, I dated and stuff, and I had a boyfriend or two, but I wasn't like in a serious relationship. There was no commingling of money or anything else. Otherwise, it would have been disaster. And I would not have blamed the guy for leaving me. In fact, I would expected the guy to have left me. Now, just for the record, in case anybody's wondering, my divorce 13 years ago had nothing to do with shopping addiction or anything else. That is a good thing. All right. So in that regard, that was good. Had nothing to do with that. Let's see here. He refuses to share your finances with you. Again, husband relapsed into gambling, lost over 100,000. He refuses to share his finances with you. Redditor, would you like to stick around till he loses another 100,000? See, if you want to know what an addict's future can be like, look at their past and see what they've done. And unless they have worked on themselves, I mean, gotten on their knees, found Jesus or whatever, they go to those counseling sessions, they involve you in certain parts of their healing. There are certain parts they should not involve you in. Okay, and that could be very hard also for somebody who wants to stick around with someone who's recovering from an addiction. You should not, as the so-called innocent person, you should not have your nose and constantly be asking, well, so what happened in counseling today? What happened? Don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. Just simply, did you get to your medical appointment today? Great. The end. Say nothing else. And I'm telling you that from firsthand experience. Don't be the person that's going, well, so what did you guys discuss? Tell me, what'd you talk about? You're not going to get the answer you want. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you something. I love my late mother, had her issues, and one of the things that used to just tick the heck, I'm using the nice word, out of me, is she would try to ask me, what was wrong, when really nothing was wrong. She just had a freaking depressed daughter, but there was really nothing wrong, and so I used to make up crap just to get her off my ass. Somebody said something mean to me at school. Oh, well, did you say anything back? No. Well, how could you have handled this better? And then we go through some stupid fake thing. And then she was like, and when she felt that I was cured and that the conversation had, that the problem was now solved and I could put a smile on my face again, then I'd be told to, go on my merry way. And I'd be thinking, what the bejesus, there was nothing wrong, but I was just simply depressed. Leave me alone in my depression. I'm laughing about it, but it's not funny. I'm laughing about it because I look back, it's like, God dang, how stupid. So the problem is sometimes when you choose to stay in a relationship with someone who really needs counseling, who really, really needs therapy, the whole reason I was telling you this, okay, is because they need to unearth whatever it is that's going on. There's a reason they have that addiction. There's something that happened. There's a trauma, most likely somewhere. No, I'm not trying to sound like Dr. John, from the Ramsey show. I'm just giving you my own personal experience. There is something there that is undiagnosed. They need to fix it. But the problem is oftentimes I'm going to say that the person that they are married to, unfortunately, it's just the luck of the draw that you happen to marry somebody with a whole bunch of PTSD addiction issues that didn't come out until perhaps years later. I remember my psychiatrist told me that once. She said, she goes, "This could have come out when you were 60 years old." Said it came out in my 30s. Thank you, Jesus. But the hard part is sticking with someone who's an addict, whether it's a gambling addict, shopping addict, whatever. If it's got OCD, all of that stuff. The problem is as the innocent party, you want to help them. You want to make them better because you want your relationship to be saved. And I can tell you 9 out of 10, I don't think it can be saved because to save the relationship, they must first save themselves. The person with addiction has to save themselves first. If they aren't willing to save themselves first, then they can't save the relationship. It's impossible. So my question is, how long do you as the innocent person want to stick around to watch this person go through their addiction? Okay, guys, I have to stop.